So strike up another loss for Donald Trump as Jimmy Kimmel is now back on the air and back on the air everywhere. I want to go over this and other news, and let's jump right in. So this is the headlines here. Sinclair is putting Jimmy Kimmel's late night show back on the air. And effectively, if you don't know, they were the last holdouts trying to keep him off the air and essentially ultimately caved. This is what their quote is. Our objective throughout this process has been to ensure programming remains accurate and engaging for the widest possible audience. I think they're facing massive boycotts, essentially. We take seriously our responsibility as a local broadcasters to provide programming that serves the interests of our communities and while also honoring our obligations to air national network programming. And the other thing that they would have had to do is if they do take him off the air, what are they going to put in replacement? Some of the rumors I heard are just going to put some sort of Hollywood Squares thing on there or some sort of reality stuff. No, seriously, because you have to come up with essentially alternate programming, and then maybe ultimately it just wasn't going to work out. Trump then changes his targets. He loses against his fight against Jimmy Kimmel. Trump always goes on and on about ratings and stuff like that, and essentially, he thinks of this whole thing as being a TV show because that's what Trump is always trying to do. He's trying to recreate The Apprentice, right, that old TV show. And essentially what we're doing right now is Apprentice White House edition. These days, he's going after Comey, and you have to see what he has to say about it. Let's watch.
I'm James Comey. Now that James Comey has been indicted, who is the next person on your list in this retribution?
It's not a list, but I think there'll be others. I mean, they're corrupt. These were corrupt radical left Democrats, because Comey essentially was he's worse than a Democrat. I would say the Democrats are better than Comey, but no, there'll be others. Look, that's my opinion. They weaponized the Justice Department like nobody in history. What they've done is terrible, and so I hope there are others, because you can't let this happen to a country.
So the reason why I'm showing you guys this is you have to understand, Trump will go after Kimmel, Rosie O'Donnell, Taylor Swift, whatever. Now he's going after the former FBI director. And essentially Trump's game plan is I'm just going to make up as much stuff as I possibly can. And, from the Trump's team perspective, actually lie, right? Just making stuff up. Actually, it's pretty easy. It's harder on the other side to talk about this stuff because you have to, it's like, do I address the lies directly? Then we just waste all this time, which is basically a smokescreen, so then Trump can do other things, right? He lies every day with his left hand while he's stealing with his right hand. That's the best way to describe it. But you do want to mention stuff because unfortunately, he is filled, the DOJ with people that are loyal to him. People who want to uphold the Constitution and serve the American people have basically resigned. And it's getting worse, to be perfectly frank, as it looks like they're trying to do a similar thing with the military, which is essentially doing a purge. But I wanted to show you, though, this thing where he's talking about going after more people. The question is, are you going after revenge? Is that what you're doing, Trump? That was actually a question. Listen to this.
But he got caught lying to Congress.
How is this not? Is this more about justice or is it about revenge?
It's about justice, really. It's not revenge. It's about justice. It's also about the fact that you can't let this go on.
So Trump says it's not revenge. Let's hear what Comey has to say about this, and I do think it's important to listen. So let's watch.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees. And you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
And honestly, guys, it's good to see people stand up. I'll just leave it at that. It's good to people stand up, right? As Comey says, it's better, we're not going to live on our knees. And, there's someone said in our community recently they were saying, there's a saying, and actually the community, someone from India, and they were saying, it's better to, lose your head than to hold your head in shame, meaning that, right? There are important things out there that you need to stand up for, and you need to keep your honor, right? Especially I'm saying from like Comey's point of view, if you're just like, hey, you're attacking my honor, you're attacking my word, I'm going to stand up for myself. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are going to be like that. The things that I talk about with you guys all the time, I know some people will say, well, Chris, why don't you call Trump names enough? Or why don't you kick and scream and yell? And I know a lot of YouTube channels do that, but I try to talk to just everyone, not just a select audience. And even Sinclair, right, the TV network, is like, hey, we're trying to pay attention to our full audience, because if you run a network, and some people do, so that would be Fox News, and you're just going after, half of America, or even actually less than that, we'll say 20% of the USA, there's still another 80% out there, right? And if we want to, in all sincerity, reduce the temperature in USA, reduce the violence, right, reduce the hatred, you want to talk in ways that shows leadership, and again, that's unifying. So, for those of you who complain that I don't scream enough, swear enough, or call enough names, I'm just telling you, my purpose, one, is to inform you and educate you, and two is think about showing what true leadership is, to unify people, not divide people. I'll tell you the truth on stuff, but I also, am careful in my language. The same way that even Jimmy Kimmel, which, if you want to call it an apology or a follow-up, however you want to phrase it, he's careful on his words, because when you have a large platform and a big following, you want to be careful on this stuff, and it's opposite of, say, what Trump is doing, where he just says nonstop nonsense all the time, which shows you that he's a horrible leader because he's not careful on his words. He's careless, right? Think of it this way: is for those of you who have kids or work with young people. Kids, young people, they look at everything you do. Even if you're not saying anything, they see everything that you do, because you set the example. The same way that the President of the United States, or anyone, be it the CEO of your company, they set the example. And if you want to have a better world, set the example by living a better life, and showing people that this is, how we live, and how we build sustainable communities and sustainable world. What I show you guys with the Trump stuff, literally, I just show you what he's up to. Like, he's just out golfing all the time. Literally, this is them. Kai Trump and Grandpa head to Ryder Cup, and then Trump in the White House, while he's accusing, and because he's wearing the same clothes he was before, because they went straight from that, accusing Comey and talking about, oh, this isn't revenge, blah, 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 right? Then they just goes to a golf tournament. That's what the dude's up to all the time. He's out to steal money and go to golf tournaments. It's ridiculous, right? And it's hard to talk about this stuff at all, because it's like so obvious to me that this is a completely inept and unqualified, not just Trump, but administration. However, you have to remember, there's still a portion of the population who thinks, wow, going to golf tournaments all the time and stealing crypto and trying to extort our allies for billions of dollars is a good thing. It's like, what are you people talking about? And I know it's hard if you have MAGA in your life to talk to the people. I honestly, I know it's tough, but we got to figure out a way to get through this stuff, because I don't think you want to be, fighting with your family members all the time. Oftentimes what happens, though, in these kind of circles is some people just won't admit they're wrong, right? And you may have someone like this in your life. They just don't want to admit that they're wrong, and they'll just kind of drop a subject and not talk about it anymore. But I mean, I guess if you have two choices, either someone, rants and yells and screams, Trump lies nonstop, or they'll just be quiet. I'll choose be quiet. Maybe you're never going to get them to admit that they made a mistake. However, I'll just say this, I'm 50, you guys may or not know, but I lived a long time, and I did not live through the Nixon era. However, whenever I meet older people who did vote for Nixon, because you'll meet them, and oftentimes they'll just say they were ashamed. I've heard that several times. People say, I voted for Nixon, but I feel ashamed. And so I think there's going to be a lot of people out there, the Trumpers and the MAGAs, maybe not next year, maybe not 2 years from now, but in the future will feel shame, and they will know they were in the wrong. I promise you, because, like for example, the story that we've been talking about just the last couple of days, where Hegseth is I guess they're ordering all the top military brass. It's like 07s, 010s. It could be hundreds of generals and admirals and top, flag officers to meet in Virginia. I think that's Quantico's where they're going to meet. And then it's really unprecedented. And, Haig says bragging about warrior ethos this, warrior ethos that. Okay. And we keep getting more details about this stuff. There are people in the military that know something's just not right. Something doesn't smell right. And for some people, they essentially leak things to the press because they can't necessarily, break the chain of command and just start talking, trash about the defense secretary or talking trash about the military, right? But they do go through channels to where they essentially a way to record their objections. And I think there's going to be enough people out there with moral conscience that will stand up. Let's hope so. Because the issue right now is, I think, in my opinion, Trump's going to try to do some sort of purgy thing of the military, and we'll see. There's no, who knows? And the other thing that Trump could also be doing, because it's hard to know with this stuff, is are we just doing yet another smoke screen with our left hand so we can try to steal money with our right hand? Is that what we're up to? But this is what we're doing on a daily basis. We're also fighting over whether or not ICE agents will wear masks in California. I remember Governor Newsom there is like, if you come in California, you're not going to wear masks to hide your identity. This new person here was an acting U.S. Attorney, Bill Isley. He's just like attacking Newsom, saying, oh, well, if you're a federal agent, you're going to ignore the mask law. And we're going to end up having a fight. And what's tough about any of this stuff is for people who are kind of in the middle, or, I think you kind of know stuff is wrong, but you've never, because maybe you watch Fox News all day, every day, but you've never heard alternate perspectives. Again, sort of why I talk the way they do, just talk like a real person, like not in a person that's just, what's the right word to say, just, name calling constantly. You just want to talk like a reasonable person. Like, hey, I care about you. I care about your family having a job. And I care about the economy. Is this something that we want? A bunch of, masked people kidnapping people without due process? Me, I think no. And I think any reasonable person, if you just don't let your emotions get the best of you, because essentially that's what they try to do over at Fox News. They try to appeal, let's be honest with you, people's racism and emotions. Like, oh, look at those, dangerous dark people, and be like, oh my God, I'm so scared, arrest everybody, arrest them all, right? And that's how they rule. They get people with their emotions. But we need to pull back and not rule ourselves by emotions, but by rational thinking. Because for those of you who ever dealt with someone who's like wildly emotional, and just think of it this way, it's kind of like the people who Trump tries to entrap in the casino, since remember it's a casino operator, and just get you all excited with the music and stuff like that. And, oh, you're going to win lots of money, and then you end up losing everything. If you get too excited at the casino, you end up losing everything. So that's kind of where we're at with Trump, I guess, trying to get people too excited, and then we end up losing everything. Here's an example of why we would not want to have masks. So there's a video going around. You guys may have not seen it already, but basically there's an ICE agent and just throws a woman to the ground, which is there's just no reason for that. And I guess the person got fired, but this is what it is. It was like in a hallway. There's several people around. There's cameras around, and it's like, why are we throwing people on the ground, right? There's just, and there's countless issues of this stuff with the way the ICE treats people. Again, oftentimes there's no due process, or just what's the word to say, like unnecessary, unreasonable force. They're the kind of people that's like, shoot first, ask questions later. Yeah, it sounds funny in the movies, but in real life, it's not great. And I think a lot of times when people see the stuff that we're seeing on a daily basis, you think it's like not real. Like you think it's like a TV show and not affecting you. But I'm telling you, these are real people on the ground. And also just to kind of illustrate this, the way that the Trumpy stuff works is, much of his base maybe live in, the middle of the country, and they actually don't have any exposure to other cities. And so to them, when they see images of, Boston or Chicago or LA or New York, it's like a foreign country to them because they've never been to these places. And this is something I always encourage you, just travel as many places as you can, make friends all over. And when I used to live in LA, it was always encouraging because, and I really like LA, is there's people from all over the country, all over the world in LA, and they're attracted to that place because it is a very diverse place and very welcoming environment. And something I write about in my book, it's called Positive Angle, but the basic theme is find a place that makes sense for you. And what's great about places like LA, I'm just using the LA example, but lots of big cities out there like that, is that you can find, that group of people that like the things that you like, be it if you like to paint, you can find lots of painters out there. If you want to form a rock band, you can find other people to form a rock band with, right? If you want to go into movies, you can certainly do that. If you want to do business and you want to talk about finance stuff, there's plenty of finance people out in LA, etc. I'm just saying you got to find the niche of people that makes sense for you. And then when you get into these things that you realize, wow, I found my group that is suitable for me, and there's lots of other groups that are suitable for other people, but then we can all get along together, and then you might find out you might belong to more than one group. And it's just really encouraging when you're in an environment where people are pursuing things that they want to do. I'm not saying that life is easy, and if you suddenly move to LA or whatever, that something will be all fixed. No, it won't be. It's tough. Life is tough as it go through. But the main thing for me is I don't carry the most bluntest terms. I don't just carry hatred in my heart all day, every day, and need to yell at everyone and basically seek revenge. And if you look at the way Musk and Trump talk, or look at the way that all the people that are surrounding Trump talk, who call themselves Christians, yet I'll just be honest with you, they just spew out hate nonstop. I mean, you can see it in their language and their screaming, and you'll see it on Fox News also. So that's not how I want to portray the world or teach others how to be. And if you want to talk about that kind of stuff, you guys may not know I was going to be a youth pastor when I was younger. I ended up not doing that. I decided to be a professor. I thought that was a better way to reach young people. But point being is that the things that you say and do, again, just think about how children watch you all the time, and they mimic everything that you say and do, and you want to set a good example for the world. And when you do that, it also sets a good example for yourself, where you can look in the mirror and you say, hey, my heart is filled with love, and I'm not just spewing hate all the time. Do you guys understand my point on this stuff? I hope so. And I know it's hard on YouTube, because YouTube is, what's the right word to say it? It's like it's people call it like when you watch those like trashy reality TV shows, and you'll say that's like my trash entertainment, or my dark entertainment. I can't think of the right word. It's the one that where you satisfy your vices, and you want to see that person gambling, you want to see that person crash the car, you want to see people live those ridiculous lives. But a guilty pleasure, that's the word I'm thinking of. But it's not a healthy thing to do that all the time. I'm telling you guys, and people always ask me, what's the secret to staying young? And I literally show you all the time on the channel, because if you don't know, I'm 50, and I stay young because I don't hold a bunch of hatred in my heart. And I think it's important. I point out the truth. Yes, the Trump people are doing terrible stuff, and we need to stop it. But we got to come out of a place of we're trying to unify, not divide. And it's really important to have those messages these days. What is the Trump people doing? And I do just want to show you the truth of this stuff. Looks like they're probably going to try to shut down the government so that they don't have to show you any job statistics. They don't want you to know, yep, things are really bad. And then this is also going on to where there was First Brands, and there's the other one we talked about, another car creditor. I'm forgetting the names of stuff. I'm blanking on. You can find the last video on that. But basically, there's two loan people out there. The one is they were giving a bunch of loans to people who didn't have credit histories or even Social Security. They're declared bankruptcy, and there's another company here that we're concerned about also. The reason why I mentioned the job stuff and this bankruptcy stuff is I think there's a real broken economy towards the bottom of the economic scale in the USA, and essentially the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. That's an easy way to say it. And Trump policies are making this situation worse. And what he wants people to do is be angry at other workers effectively, and not angry at how the system is beneficial to billionaires. And so the stuff that I talk about with you guys is how can we build a sustainable system for 9.9% of us, basically most of us, right? Except that Elon Musk and Trump's, and they're going to be fine. If Elon Musk has to pay a little bit more taxes, it's not like he doesn't have the money. He'll be fine. And this is something that I always find strange, is for the people who worship Musk and Trump. Is why? How does that even make sense? And the best way to describe it is, if you've ever worked a job and your boss is crappy, give you bad hours, makes promises and breaks them, or doesn't pay you at all, just a crappy boss, right? Crappy job, crappy boss. Why would you worship said person? You wouldn't, right? And I think a lot of people get fooled to say, oh, well, Trump and Musk are on TV, and I should believe them. Wow, they're so awesome. But all you have to do is just open your eyes and look at the history of these people. And so I'll show you Trump every now and then. And, you know, I always tell you the same thing. You make a determination for yourself on what you believe. But look at people's track record and look how people, again, portray themselves and what's in their heart. So that's my thoughts on this stuff. I'd like to hear yours. And I'll catch you all in the next video.